Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Tech in Ghana event, our virtual seminar, which is a webinar, which is being sponsored by Goddard out of London. I'm Sam Amanor, based out of Ghana. I work as founder and CEO for BlueSPACE Africa. We are a digital financial infrastructure company building networks connecting the fintechs and the banking infrastructure to the emerging technologies that are happening out there. I'm honored and privileged to be joined this afternoon by Adoma, Peprah, who is the country manager for Visa. I will give each panelist a minute or two to introduce yourselves. But today we're going to look into what the future of fintech will look like in Ghana from 2020 to 2030. We know that things have changed and the advent of COVID has not made it any easier. It's actually put the force and the pressure on the actors in the financial ecosystem to innovate. So we want to prophesy this afternoon and try and project what the next decade will look like. What would it look like? So I'll first of all give the chance for my panelists to give me an idea of who they are, what they do on a daily basis. If they're working from home, please make sure the blinds are covered on your back. We don't want to see any strange items. There's no bathrooms to go to this afternoon. You're stuck with me for the next 45 minutes. So please, Adoma, please take care of the introductions on your side, and Abdul and Paul take it from there. I believe Dede is also on with us from Zeepay. Over to you, Adoma.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Samuel. Hello, everybody. It's nice to connect with you all digitally. As Sam mentioned, I'm the country manager for Visa based here in Ghana. Visa, as most of you know, is the world's leader in digital payments. And what we do is that we connect all entities in order for them to be able to thrive, right? So we basically enable digital payments. Visa has been in existence since 1958. So 62 years now, and our mission is really to make sure that economies, businesses, and communities thrive, and through that we enable payments to happen. We're in over 200 territories across the world, and in Ghana we've been operating here for the last 10 years, but we established an office beginning of last year, and I moved to Ghana to be able to run that business. I'm really pleased to be on this panel, and I look forward to the engaging conversation. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. You enable payments to happen. I love that part. I'll pass on to Mr. Majeed, my good friend.
Yeah, I'm Abdul-Majeed Rufai. I'm the senior manager in charge of commercial at Mobile Money Limited. Mobile Money Limited is a subsidiary of MTN Ghana that handles the e-money side of the business, regulated by Bank of Ghana. That's it from our end. I'm looking forward to an engaging session, and I hope we'll try to prophesize into the future. Thank you very much.
So all of a sudden we have digital prophets. Abdul has taken on the mantle. So Abdul, you will be able to tell us what's happening in the next 10 years through your spiritual digital eyes. So Paul, over to you. So. Tell us a brief overview of who you are, what you do.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy to connect with you from Kampala, Uganda. So my name is Paul Damalie. I'm CEO and co-founder at Appruve. And essentially what financial services use Appruve for all across Africa is to verify data their customers submit to them. So, and then this happens basically throughout the entire lifetime of engagements with their customers. They also use Appruve to sort of like gain insights on the customer. And so if you think of it really within the context of the conversation we're having, I would want to like talk about the fact that Appruve is actually bringing the future now. And I'm happy to be on this panel to share more insights on that.
Awesome, awesome. So Appruve is bringing the future forward. Is that what I just heard? You bring the future forward.
Yeah, we're already doing that.
Awesome, awesome. And I have, and I'm very grateful that we have gender balance on this panel. I have Dede Quarshie from Zeepay, who will also tell us a brief overview of what she does on a daily basis and what their company does in the fintech ecosystem.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Once again, good afternoon. Like you mentioned, my name is Dede Quarshie. I work as the head of commercial at Zeepay. Zeepay has been in existence for 6 years. We facilitate remittances and payments through digital, by connecting digital assets to digital rails. We've done this for the past 6 years. We're happy to go into the mobile money space, for which we got a license this year. Happy to talk about the topic at hand today, looking to the future like everybody is saying, perhaps take a sneak peek into a crystal ball as well. So that's about it for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's going to be quite an exciting panel. As I mentioned, fintech has really come a long way. I believe Bill Gates said banking is always needed, but banks will not be needed at some point. And we've seen that particular statement play out in the last 10 years. I remember coming back home from the US, 2010, Tallow Oil was going public. Everybody was very excited, and I was asking, so when a company goes public, how do you actually buy shares? Literally, you have to walk to your bank branch, spend time with a broker and participate and fill a lot of forms before you can acquire shares in the particular company. Recently, MTN also went public. It was fantastic for the Ghanaian economy. But as you can see, mobile money has also changed the dynamics in terms of how we acquire, how we trade and tender services. So much has happened. So what we're going to do, before we predict the future, we have to look back, spend the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so to look back. What was it like in 2010 for us, right? We're in 2020 now. What was the state of 2010? For whatever recollections you have, you may share that. This is a freestyle for this moment, and then I'll go into the specific questions that I have for you all to inspire our audience. And by the way, thank you all for joining again. So we're going to look back, and on this time, we're going to call on the lady first, or ladies first. I'll throw the question to Adoma. I don't know if you were in Ghana in 2010, but at least through your crystal balls, you may be able to tell us what Ghana looked like for you, or what you knew about payments in 2010.
Thank you. I was not in Ghana in 2010. So for most of you who can hear from my accent, I grew up in South Africa and I spent all my formative years there. So I moved back to Ghana beginning of last year. But that said, I've been coming to Ghana for the last 20 years or so. So I have been tracking how things have been. I know that when it was Zane, I think it was Zane, I remember when I the first time I came to Ghana after I left, we left when we were pretty young. I wouldn't be giving my age away, but we left Ghana when we were pretty young. And I only came back 99. And I remember I wanted to come back for the millennial. So it was really a big thing for me. So I remember Zane, that was a big thing. I mean, I'm a, you know, I work in card payments. I know that card payments was not that widespread 10 years ago. And it's just been great to see the evolution. I mean, I know digital payments in Ghana is largely driven by mobile money. And there's a lot that should be said around the telco industry. And then also the regulators that facilitated digital payments. We've come a long way in terms of where things are at. And for me, one of the reasons I moved to Ghana as well is to be part of shaping that and driving it, especially since it's such, there's been so much foundation that's been laid down by the government of Ghana in terms of driving digital payments. And they're an example themselves. And they're saying, you know, as of June this year, all payments to government should be done digitally. And if your government says so, you know, it should be something that permeates throughout the whole country and the whole nation. So it's been good to see it. I still think there's a lot that needs to be done. Cash is ubiquitous. A lot of people, I know Ghanaians like to see and feel and touch the cash. So cash is still predominant in this market, and we need to really try and shift it in terms of moving to more digital forms of payment. And I think, I know, Sam, your question was 10 years ago, but Meg, I think for me, what has been very exciting about the pandemic from a payments perspective is that we've had to shift to digital. I think during the conference, a lot have been said around the shift to digital, and it's been great. For us, we saw folks do e-com for the very first time and be comfortable with that, and it's nice to see that grow and thrive, and just see how all the different players and my fellow panelists can help in terms of shaping that. So just to answer your question, I think it was 10 years ago, very, very largely cash-based, and now there's been a huge focus in terms of digital payments, and it's been great to see the evolution.
Awesome. I think you've taken my mind back. I forgot there was a brand called Zain at all. And Zain was one of my Airtel. Well, Zain became Airtel. I remember I was working with a company called EMC at the time. I was the country manager at the time. And they kept buying storage infrastructure, data storage and servers to basically have more digital accounts or mobile accounts, if you will. Nobody had thought about mobile money. And here we are, 10 years after, mobile money is quite active. Fintech as an industry is developing. We have more than 50 fintechs emerging in Ghana, with someone's leading. But we've had a mega fintech who's also joined us. So Abdul, can you take us back 10 years ago? I'm sure you were quite young at the time. You look young now as well. What was the industry like for you at that time?
Sam, I'm still young. I'm not old.
Forever young, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the industry like for you at that
time? Quite interesting. 2010, I look back at 2010. Mobile money came into the country in July 2009. So I look back at 2010. Remember at that time, if I could take our minds back, it was the branchless banking, where the license to operate mobile money was given to the banks. So telecom companies are required to go through the bank. So if you have to run mobile money, you need to go through the bank before. So the license was not given to the mobile money or telecom operators. The license was actually given to the banks. So if the banks at that time said, I'm not interested, it means there is no mobile money. That was what was happening around 2020. Fast forward, we also came to the electronic money issuers guideline in 2015. That was when the central bank decided that let's change the model. And then the telecom company should have a subsidiary that will run mobile money separate from the telecom business. Fast forward today, we have the Payment Systems Act. So that's how the regulation has evolved. Just to say, around 2010 also, fintech, the thing about fintech has not been that's developed yet. Previously, fintechs were providing some solutions to the banks. Just few fintechs venture into mobile money because, of course, it was not profitable at that end. So from 2010 up to 2015, I know a lot of fintechs who really were providing solutions that were not making money because the solutions that were being provided, the returns were not that worthwhile putting the investment. But some of the fintechs persisted and then followed through. Today, we are having, as you said, over 50 fintechs. But I dare say those who embrace it earlier are really the front runners that we see in our market here. And I'll say it has evolved regulatory-wise. The regulation has also helped to shape the future, to separate the mobile money operators from the telecom side of the business. And that's also something that has shaped the future. And I'm sure as we go along, there will be a lot of more scrutiny in that area.
Awesome, awesome. This is quite impressive. I believe no industry will grow in the financial ecosystem without the dominant play of the regulator. I think it's very evident. But I must also say that the regulators will not be successful. Neither will the fintechs be successful without a telco partner. You guys are the transport ecosystem, the transport layer that allows financial transactions to happen, right? So if you remove the telco, there will not be financial technology, to be honest, because without connectivity, no transaction will happen, whether a bank or a fintech. So kudos to the telcos for also growing with the pace of innovation and upgrading your networks and providing the coverage that we need. I know that the second lady on the call is itching. I can tell. She's itching. She's preparing herself to tell us what 2010 looked like for her, what hairstyle she had, how she used to dress, the whole 9 yards. So please, Dede, tell us what was the swag back then, technology wise? I'm not talking about fashion, by the way. It's technology.
Well, thanks, pretty much. I have joined this company about 3 years ago, and when I joined, I remember at the time it was quite difficult to even go into a market, and especially in Africa, and try to speak to a regulator. And I remember very well that the AU had set up at the time an institute for remittances. And so for us remittance players and fintechs in that industry, it was very exciting. But I remember very well that a lot of central bank or a lot of central banks were not ready to embrace remittances or even embrace the fact that you can actually digitalize compliance as far as remittance is concerned. We've come a long way. Today, Ghana has, come out with directives to implement a few laws and things like that to regulate the space, which is very exciting for us. And if you went into other markets like Liberia, if you went into other markets like Nigeria, it's amazing the kind of inroads that central banks have managed to make in the industry. And so for me, I think that the next 10 years is a very exciting one. I think that it is fintechs that will push the next 10 years. It is fintechs that would evolve the next 10 years for our ecosystem, especially because in Africa, it's a very unique situation. I call it the situation made for Africans. It is made by Africans and for Africans. If you look at how fintech started in Africa, for instance, it's really African fintechs that started this whole mobile payments and digital payments, digitalization of payments, and it was born out of a need for people, to be financially included, and more importantly, to be able to just live their lives. It was so difficult for them, but then to realize that somebody has a solution out there for them and they catch on to it, that tells you that there is a need and it is being addressed. And so for me, I think that the next 10 years is a very exciting one for us in this industry. It's a huge opportunity for us in this industry.
Wow, I remember when you sent money in New York or Michigan and you send money to Ghana, and someone has to literally walk to the bank branch, be in line, sit there for hours, only to get to the teller and to be told the system is down. That was frustrating. And at the time, there was no punitive actions when you couldn't get, financial service delivered to you. Paul, how were we doing identity verification 10 years ago? If you showed up with an afro back then in the bank, nobody knew who you were, right? How could they KYC you back then? Did we lose Paul?
Hello? Oh.
Yes. Is Paul on or we lost him? Okay, no worries. Whilst we're waiting for Paul to come back, I think it's apt for us to go deep into where we are now. I believe just last year I heard we're doing close to about $40 billion worth of financial transactions to the emergence of fintech, right? Mobile money transactions that are being moved around. Nonetheless, the banks themselves are also transacting. They're doing financial technology. So the phase one players of fintech are the original banks. I don't want to take that away from them. They were acquiring technology. They were offering financial services. They were delivering fintech before the emergence of, let's say, the fintech ninjas came into the ecosystem. So I'll say the superheroes of fintech are our current banks in our industry. The banking sector has reformed a lot. And we believe that as we move forward, there has to be a lot of collaboration, which is the only game in town, right? You cannot act in isolation of the current financial system. Neither can the fintechs build the kind of risk profiles that exist to fight fraud and the emergence of fraud and the actors of fraud to be punished. And I believe the regulator has seen that this ecosystem requires a different kind of setup. And as we speak today, 10 years ago, there was no fintech department at the central bank. Now we have one, which is a great feat that has been achieved. So I think a lot has happened. The question is, how are we creating jobs? How are we enhancing the daily lives of citizens within the country? I will now pass the baton to Mr. Paul. He's back with us to share with us his view of what the landscape was 10 years ago. Paul, I hope you'll be able to share some experiences with us. A story would be good if you could tell us a story that personally happened 10 years ago that frustrated the hell out of you before you got into Appruve.
Oh yeah. Back in 2010, I was just finishing senior high school, getting into university. So the evolution of fintech and technology and what has happened over the last 10 years, I'm quite privy. I don't know whether you all remember Minsa Kao.
That was a commercial, right?
Yes, that was the first. I think one of the earliest MTN mobile money commercials. I think that happened. Yeah, and at that time, it was very fascinating to me. But I mean, at that point in time, it felt like it was very early. I think most people within 2010, then even when you're leaving senior high school and getting into university, you still wouldn't have the phone until, let's say, probably much later during the year. So it was still very novice. There weren't many agent networks. And I still remember that anytime I was going to school, I had to carry cash, keep it somewhere, hide it somewhere in the boardroom, otherwise to get stolen. That's the end for me for that term. And so the evolution, to see that happen, especially during my university days, and to see the kind of technologies that were built on top of the infrastructure as it has evolved is very interesting. I think that, again, if you look 10 years ago, the fintech in general, there was a lot of interdependency, and I think you've alluded to it, a lot of interdependency with the telco infrastructure, i.e. data connections being strong, and the reliability of mobile money. And so that also, when it improved over time, I think the mobile money network and platforms also improved. Banking, however, wasn't catching up, right? And so very few banks had banking apps. I think banking apps even began evolving in Ghana probably in the last 4 years, when banks started really taking it seriously, right? And so I would say that it's been 10 years. Sounds long, but we are still like very, very early. We've not even scratched 1% of the potential of what we can do. When people talk about fintech, still largely in their minds, they are talking about payments. But I mean, it's a broader scope. It's bigger than what we think it is. And I'm myself, I'm privileged as a founder of a company that's really much in the middle of trying to, catalyze that whole process, not only in Ghana, but on the continent. And so this has sort of like been what I have seen in the last 10 years, largely still payments. Now we're beginning to see a few other, sectors fulcrumed around delivery of financial services. And I think the future would look more like us being able to help people get money into their pockets. That is when you have arrived in fintech. So, yeah.
So, thank you, Paul. I'm very excited that your memory still works. You took me back to boarding school and the like, which is interesting. Now, I'm sure the current students in boarding school can hide money in their wallets. So, if you can look at if you can get access to their PIN code, then voila, you've taken their money now. How is fraud playing out in the current landscape? That brings me to the question of fraud. It's being out there. Obviously, the banks are inundated with a lot of cybersecurity threats. The fintechs are dealing with data protection issues and fraud issues. How is fraud playing in your respective businesses? If you're not digital and you move into a digital landscape, you have to deal with the thieves within that ecosystem. And cybersecurity, whether caused by internal actors or the external threats, how are you dealing with that in your current landscape? And to move forward to the next 10 years, how are we going to build trust in that ecosystem? Because the lack of trust is what's keeping a lot of the cash in the system, right? I don't want to go into digital because I want to feel the money, right? How do we build trust into that ecosystem? Adoma, you talked about ensuring you enable payments to happen. How is trust being built into your game currently? I know this is not a technical question. Maybe you can answer it in a non-technical way to help the audience understand, because payments still, it's a mystery to people, right? Money moves from one place to the other. They don't understand. My grandmother doesn't understand how that works. Over to you, Adoma. Can you hear me, Adoma? Okay, I think Adoma is having some technical difficulties.
Yes, I can. I hope you guys can hear me. I've been in and out of my webcam because I think I am sucking quite a lot of bandwidth. So I'm probably going to switch off again so that I come across audibly. So I'm assuming the question is really around fintechs in collaboration, Sam?
No, I was talking more about
your question
how
to me?
build trust. How we build trust in the digital payments space, because that happens to be one of the main deterrents of the citizens embracing full financial services in the digital ecosystem.
Yeah. You are so correct. In my opening statements, when you asked about what happened 10 years ago and I kind of brought it to the future, I mentioned the fact that for the very first time, a lot of people during this pandemic did their first digital payments. Now, a lot of people have been wary because they are concerned. A lot of people are mistrustful of digital payments purely because of the safety security element of it. And it is a no-brainer. We need to make sure that our payments ecosystems, our payments landscapes are secure, right? And it's the only way that we're going to be able to get trust from our consumers who will continue to use digital payments. If they know that it's safe and then they can trust it, that is what they'll continue to utilize it. So from a Visa perspective, safety is something we do not compromise on at all. There are so many different security layers placed onto on our platforms. We've spent 62 years, since 1958, 62 years trying to perfect this. And so every single thing that we do, it's all around the security and the security layers. We work with our issuing banks and other banking clients and partners in order to say, how can you make a transaction more secure? And what are some of the things that we can do to make sure that we we are foolproof, right? Because what's happened as well is that during this pandemic, when everybody's moved digital, so have the fraudsters. You know, so you've got to be ahead of them. You've got to be able to track where they are going to and try and get ahead of the curve. So with Visa, for example, sitting in various stations in the States, in San Francisco and then in Austin as well, we have people that all they do is just track this, you know, what are some of the things that we're seeing from a trend perspective, from a fraud perspective, so that we can let our issuers and other partners know so that they can try and prevent that. So security is undoubtedly one of the things that we need to be we need to guard it. We need to ensure that the security layers are in place if we're going to make sure that digital payments grow. So it's something that it's at the forefront of every single thing that we do.
Well, I think that's the only way that the growth that we all project will happen, if we can build trust into this ecosystem. And you know, without identity, none of this will happen. How can a company like Appruve, or your company, you're validating identities, you're endorsing documents, and you're saying this information is valid? As you know, a lot of the identity landscape is fractured. It's siloed. How are we going to know that that guy's ID is not fraudulent? And they've taken it to MTN. They've been onboarded into the ecosystem. They have a mobile money number, account, and they're doing trades. Meanwhile, that trade is fraudulent. Maybe some child trafficking activities happening on the back of that mobile money transaction. How are we going to build that sort of visibility from identity to that transaction to prove that indeed, okay, we're just not validating that ID, but we're actually validating what kind of things they're doing with the money? How can you speak to that?
Well, you sign up on Appruve and you use Appruve. We'll solve that problem for you. But I mean, I think that if you think about the way technology has evolved, it's always like, you know, the relationship between government and tech. Tech would always, innovation will always be ahead of the government, right, and their policy.
Yeah.
Right? Then in some funny, weird way, the fraudsters will always be one tiny bit step ahead of, you know,
innovation.
Yes, yeah, innovation. And so it's like this three-way relationship. Now, if you think about it, what it means is that a number of things has to happen. If someone tells you that internally, with their own capabilities, they can stop fraud, they are lying. Because you see, it's an interconnected relationship. And so we at Appruve, we think about fighting fraud. It's really about the ecosystem. And so our approach is this. We're connected to multiple sets of data. We have government identity databases, we have financial account data, both mobile money and bank accounts. We have fraud data, actually. And what this allows us to do through our network, that network, is that we're able to layer on machine learning intelligence on top of that to be able to connect the dots. So we have like a network graph that is able to connect the dots, relationships, find the trends. And so whether be it, you know, a transaction that was done offline, or a transaction that was done online, or there's some fraudulent transaction that was, you know, captured some time ago, we are able to learn from the trends and then be able to predict that, looking at the way this transaction is going, you will be able to, you know, make some determination. And so think of it this way. From the point of first contact, when the customer is getting introduced to your product, you validate their document, you authenticate it, you are sure that this document is truly owned by this individual using our infrastructure. Then you will, as a merchant, you want to understand who you are dealing with, and so you want to gain insights. You use Appruve to, you know, analyze the data, the transactional data that comes around, you know, that transaction. Then if you want to do things like sending money to an account, and you want to be sure that that account has been related to any fraudulent transaction historically, you could still use Appruve to sort of like understand that. And so it's a 360 approach. We don't work off ourselves. We are like an engine, a thinking machine that goes to all the players, payments, lending, banking, all across the continent, and we pick insights from this data. Using that collective intelligence, you are better, faster at preventing various fraudulent activities, and I think that's what the value we offer. And I believe that as we have more and more players like this in the ecosystem, it does help to strengthen what we do. Generally, there's also responsibility on consumers themselves. Things as simple as don't divulge your PIN, or if some stranger calls you and says you've won $100,000, you know that you didn't do anything to earn that money. Just don't respond to that. So yes, other than technology, which is just one part of solving the problem, the other part of it is also that collective responsibility we have as individuals and regulators, etc., to solve the problem.
So, I mean, it looks like this brings the regulator to another stage of its evolution, to have a financial intelligence, almost like a fintech intelligence unit of sort, to probe into what's going on between all the collaborators. Because if I'm a consumer and I get frauded in a financial transaction, who do I report to? I'll go to MTN, I'll go to Appruve, I'll go to Zeepay, I'll go to Visa. You log a case, but your case does not get resolved immediately. You still lose money, right? You're waiting for somebody to call you back. There's no fees, there's no punitive actions being taken on behalf of that client, right? If the client indeed is innocent in the transaction and the culprit is either on the tech side or on the bank side, there's no punitive action. I think looking forward, one of the catalytic elements is to get the regulator to say, I want to referee this properly, and I want to be able to police all the actors to make sure that if a fraud happens, I can pinpoint exactly who the actor is. If an error happens, I can pinpoint, who this, because only then that would we have trust, I think. Right, Majid, this is really your play. You are the transport layer, and you're also the wallet holder, right? So you're playing in two teams, trying to facilitate a financial transaction across all fronts. How do you see the trust element building in the ecosystem?
Sam, the 100%, what Paul said, trust is everything. In fact, it's not only in financial transactions, even your personal life, in everything that you do. Trust and confidence in the service that you are rendering is everything. And it's very, very important that whether you are providing a fintech is providing a service to an SME, or is providing a service to an end user, or even between two people, trust is a whole lot. Once you lose that trust, then you lost everything. Because today, I mean, that's why it's also important for anybody entering, whether it is a fintech, whether it's a wallet provider, to make sure at least that cybersecurity investment is very, very key. Because the point is that if the fraudster or whoever it is who wants to take advantage of either system or customers, the most important thing in this is to make sure system-wise there is a cybersecurity system where people cannot hack the system. Once you have people who can hack into your system, then the trust is lost altogether. So that's why, as a wallet provider, as somebody who is in the middle providing partnership with all sorts of people, you have to make sure, and even the people who are connecting to you. I'm sure Paul will know the issue that's happened in Uganda, where the fintech, because
yes, I was just going to mention that.
Exactly. Well, because you cannot get through the wallet provider, now you need to look for a weak link in the whole ecosystem. So this time they realize a flaw on the side of the fintech and they exploit it. So it's important that even as somebody is connecting to you, you are also making sure that their systems are also foolproof, cannot be subject to any hacking. Today, that is why today, for any fraudster to do anything in the system, the person has to initiate a call. The person has to contact somebody. So that's why it is important that the customer is also educated. So once the customer, for me, I see the fraudsters are seeing the weak link as the customer because he cannot go through the fintech to hack into the system. He cannot go through the wallet provider to hack into the system. Now, who are the weak link in this? The people who the services are being rendered to. So today, they will pick up a call. As Paul said, somebody call you and tell you that your sister has sent you something. You need to come and pay. You don't verify, and you go ahead to make payment, and then come running and say you have been defrauded. Somebody will call you and say you have to send me money. I've sent money to you. Because they've realized that the customer is a weak link and they need the collaboration of the customer. They try to exploit that. That's why today, the industry, the key issue that we have taken on board is to educate the customer. It's for the customer to know that there is no way somebody can hack into the system. That's the trust that you are building into the system. For the customer to have the confidence that once your PIN is safe with you, once your mobile phone is safe with you, you can't give your Visa card to somebody and give the person your PIN as well. So why will you hand over your phone and your PIN to somebody? So it is important that whatever system you are building into, whether it's a fintech or whether it's a wallet provider, the trust that we can give is to make sure our cybersecurity system is foolproof. Nobody can hack into it. And then once we are able to educate the customer as well, the fact that nobody can hack into your system, nobody can hack into your wallet without you yourself collaborating with a person. Once you are able to do that, the customer is well educated that this is how the fraudster operates, and then the customer can report. And then the other leg is also our security agencies. Once these things are happening, but today, one of our major issues when these people are arrested or these people are found out is our ID system. Thankfully, today we are embarking on national ID. Once we are able to get national ID system in place, and then everybody realize that the national ID is the only one that you can be used to do any financial transaction, then we can get to a stage where people are arrested based on what they do, and then we can build a lot more confidence into the ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you, Majid. I think we've also lost Dede, who was with us a few minutes ago, but if Dede is not back, I think it's time. We have about 15 minutes left. Dede is back. Awesome. Dede, remittance happens to be a contributor to GDP on the continent. I was doing a study where we're looking at regional networks to support funds transfer from African countries, and the infrastructure required is quite expensive to do, right? Illicit capital flows. Now you have digital assets that are moving on wallet networks that we have no control over. How are you guys ensuring the prevention of illicit capital flows within the remittance network, right? To also boost, because Ghana is being flagged, right? And when Ghana got flagged for financial crime, a lot of people went straight to the bank. But what people don't realize is that remittance networks are also contributors of illicit capital flows into countries. So what are we doing to continue building the same trust and financial sanity, if you will, within the remittance network? And then right after that, we're going to go into enablement. What do we need to do for the ecosystem in Ghana, i.e. education? You talked about it, Majid, customer education, capital investment into the ecosystem, so that we can then conclude with Q&A. So, Madam Dede, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. It's interesting what you just said. Ghana was flagged and everybody rushed to the bank. But then guess what? COVID will happen tomorrow. Everybody rush back to fintechs because they can't handle cash, isn't it? Anyway, so just to answer your question, I think that to garner trust in this ecosystem, first of all, fintechs need to ensure, I mean, case in point, Uganda, with what Majid mentioned, I was actually listening. I hadn't left. It's important that certain protocols are adhered to. One of them being monitoring of transactions. We do this in the banks, okay, we monitor transactions, but how are we doing that digitally? We are in a better position to monitor transactions on a real-time basis. So why don't you build a platform like Paul has mentioned, build a platform with the right algos in the back end and ensure that you're flagging the kind of algorithms that you need to flag, you know, and so that at the end of the day, these perpetrators are being arrested or are being dealt with. One thing that I realize in Ghana especially is that fraud is on the ascendancy. It's not reducing, but there is very little accountability, little or no accountability on the part of stakeholders. So people are being fraudulent. We hear about it, but it's in silos. You know, it's almost like a subtle, sudden, or hidden conversation. And that does not make the customer confident. The customer needs to have the confidence and needs to be sure. And it also, at the end of the day, serves as a deterrent. Because if I'm a customer and I'm using your digital platform, I want to be sure and be confident that at the end of the day, if somebody tried anything on me, that person is going to be dealt with. And so that other people will be deterred from doing the same thing. I mean, I heard Paul mention about the fact that the fraudster is almost always a little bit smarter than the fintech. But guess what? We have everything in front of us. We have everything at our disposal. We have every reason or every opportunity to to deal with these issues. It's just a matter of us asking ourselves, what is new out there? What's the next thing that the fraudster is going to think of? And how do we circumvent that? We need to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to be ahead of the fraudster at every point in time. I was talking about having algorithms to flag, but also you need to look at the trends. You need to be looking at how these people are operating. Recently, we had an issue. We're looking at that particular issue. It looks like a very innocent transaction, but if you lifted the veil a little bit, you realize that there's so much more to this transaction and there's so much more that we can do. But how do we effectively address that and ensure that stakeholders are also in the loop and stakeholders are very interested in going that direction? Is it something that we want to do? How do we garner our efforts together as an industry and ensure that we're clamping down on these things so that at the end of the day, Ghana is looking at a cashless system. We're looking at a cash light economy. How do we get there by not paying attention to these things? It's important that we pay attention to this little loophole that fraudsters are taking advantage of. And I believe that as fintechs, we are in a better position to handle it rather than the non-fintechs who don't have any data, they don't have any platforms, they don't even have the benefits of AI, MI, IoT. They don't have anything at their disposal. They are handicapped, if I can put it that way, but we are in a better position to handle it. I also mentioned Majid mention education. Education is very important. It's important that we educate our customers. It's actually a responsibility on our part legally to educate our customers regularly on the trends, things that are happening, how they can protect themselves. We need to have them fully aware of the platform that they're using so they can understand it entirely. I realize that a lot of people, or a lot of, whether we like it or not, illiteracy is high in Ghana and in Africa for that matter. And so you can't expect my grandmother to understand what my mobile money platform is saying to her all the time. But if somebody is educating her on that local level, what are we doing in that direction? It's something that we need to take up seriously. So for me, those are the little things, a few things that I can talk about. also being transparent, giving the customer that real-time feedback on their transactions all the time. And then in terms of drawing them in on the side of this economy, or getting them to be more excited about platforms and digital rails and assets, having things like loyalty programs for them makes them feel like you're giving back to them, and it makes them listen to you more. And this is Africa. This is us. People are excited about t-shirts and pens and caps. You know, that's who we are. And so for me, those are the little things that we can do to get closer to the ordinary Ghanaian or the ordinary the ordinary African who's sitting out there looking to be financially included, and so would want to use these platforms, but is so unsure. But how do we, this is how we can create that comfort and that confidence in them.
Awesome. It sounds like they didn't want to bring Christmas sooner than we have it. Offering freebies, t-shirts, and hats. Thank you, Dede. I think it's unanimous that trust is the catalyst we need to get to the 2030 achievements. The question is, what are the enablers? We've talked about the deterrents for growth. We've talked about what is required for growth as well. But I think the enablers right now is customer first. We need a customer advocacy within the fintech ecosystem, which we don't have. A place where I know if financial crime is committed locally, whether it's in-house or external, I'll get, my issue will be dealt with, right? A contact center that is not bound to just a single fintech or a single bank. Just like we have the NCA, if your phone lines are dropping so much, you can report someone, right? We need something to enable the customers to feel that we're doing things to support them. So in conclusion, we have about 6 minutes. We now are at the point of prophecy, right? What does it look like for us in the next 10 years? What would it look like? Because we're going to have the massive multi-vertical or multi-sectorial digitization that's going to grow at the national level. Financial services will broaden its digital agenda. Mortgages in the capital markets. You're looking at lending in terms of SME banking. You're looking at agency banking. So many things will be evolving. But what is the future look like in the next 10 years from a telco perspective, like Majeed? What would that vision look like for you? So this is your 1 minute prophecy, if you can share that prophecy with us. And we'll call you back on this in 10 years from
now. Coming back from 10 years, rolling from 10 years to now, you are going into the future 10 years. I see a lot of innovation coming up. I see regulatory scrutiny also, because previously a fintech did not need any license to start operating. Today, there's various categories that you need to register from Bank of Ghana to get a license. So I see some regulatory scrutiny, and I keep mentioning there will be a lot of cyber attacks. I see it's a very important step to build trust. So I see fintechs building into cybersecurity, investing in cybersecurity. I see innovation. I see a lot of partnerships. And for me, really, partnership is what will grow this industry. If we try to work in silos, I can assure you we will not be where we are today, if not for partnership. Partnership, if you want to do lending, partnership with the financial institution. If you want to do pensions, partnership with the trustees. So I see a lot of those partnerships playing into in the coming years, and I see a lot of merger as well.
Awesome. I think Majeed is looking into the financial marriages that will be happening. As a priest, he's seeing a lot of fintechs marrying each other. There'll be diaries to be paid, digital financial diaries. We will make sure that we'll collect that for AB 2020. Again, this webinar is brought to you by Additional Goddard. It's a Tech in Ghana webinar that we've had this. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to do this in a virtual context. Adoma, what do you see? You have glasses on, so definitely you see visions that we may not see, that Majeed has not seen. 10 years from now, 10 years. Give us, 10 years, what do you see?
I agree with Majid. I think the way that this ecosystem is going to thrive is purely via collaboration. Mobile network operators can't do it by themselves. Card schemes can't do it by themselves. If we collaborate and we all have different skill sets and different expertise that we can bring to the party. So for example, one of the key things that we have from a Visa perspective is our VisaNet, right, which is our processing engine, and is at the core of what it is that we do. And we realize that there's no point in just holding it to ourselves. There are fintechs that are out there that are trying to solve for real issues, right? And they're having to work painstakingly hard to try and identify these things. And we have a bunch of APIs that we can make available to fintechs. And that's how we are collaborating with them. So I say, don't go through all of the hard slog, come through us, use our platform. So collaboration is very key. I also agree with Majid that there's going to be a lot of tie-ups. Was it 2 weeks ago that Stripe invested in Paystack. I mean, this is a huge American company acquired. It's a huge American company that has bought a player in Nigeria because they realized that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and try and bring the expertise to Africa, they can use somebody else to be able to do that. So a lot of these acquisitions where we have the West come and play with the innovative solutions that we have in our markets and try and grow the ecosystem. These are the two things that I see. I think as well that on the continent, we have a lot of very hungry people. We have a lot of people that are also creative and they're looking at driving innovative solutions. I think we're going to have a lot more fintechs that are going to pop up. And what we need to do is create the right, thriving and engaging environment for them. So from our perspective, we've had this thing called the Visa Everywhere initiative that we rolled out in various parts of the world. And the whole thing is that we need to be able to identify innovative solutions of trying to solve commerce issues across the world. And we have tried to localize it because we realize that there are solutions that are homegrown in this part of the world that can be applied everywhere else. And so it's how do we ensure and enable and invest in these opportunities so that we develop solutions that can help us in terms of bridging the gap from a financial inclusion perspective.
Awesome.
So this is what I see. I know I'm over my 1 minute.
Awesome. So basically, before anybody goes, Adoma is basically saying there will be a tie-up. There will be some acquisitions happening. My prediction will be that we'll have our first unicorn from Ghana by 2030, a company that's worth $1 billion, who's a fintech in our midst. The telcos that have are not included in this prophecy, just for the record. I think, Paul, you also have prophecy because I can see as everybody else was talking, your hair was growing longer. Your hair was growing longer just in a matter of a few seconds. So what do you see? I think your powers are on now. Paul, are you still chanting? What do you see?
Right. So there was a slight connection issue.
You have a minute. It's already 3 o'clock. You have a minute.
Yeah, the future for fintech in the next 10 years, I think there's a lot that has to be done. In Ghana today, a lot of emphasis is put on payments and the immediate application of payments like remittances, right? However, that has to evolve into creating real value for customers. When I say real value, what does that mean? People care, both businesses and individuals care about how they make money. So if I move my money from one place and put it into a bank account, you solve one problem for me. But the thing I'm more interested in is how will that money grow? And how will I continue to make that money so that I can bring to you payments folks to move around? I think that is where fintech will be driving towards. And what that means is that the base infrastructure for making certain things happen is the ability to intelligently connect to data across the ecosystem. So that is one thing we are doing really, being able to interoperably make data available so that the intelligence that exists in this data, both historically and as transactionally, is able to gain insights for that and use that for all kinds of applications. Right from being able to do investments on the fly, whether you have a bank or mobile money account, right from having a personal financial advisor helping you to make better money decisions. So if it's a Friday and you want to go to Republic and spend your last 100 Ghana cedis from your bank account or mobile money account, you get a notification or advice that would advise you maybe to use that better. Or if you're spending on Jumia and you have options, a personalized system will talk to you and say, look, you could spend or you could get better deals, on Jumia by using this solution, right? And so that's where I think the future is going. We at Appruve, we are really playing our role into making this possible. And what that means is that it's going to extend everything else remittance and payments has done. And so basically putting intelligence around what we currently do. And that's where I think the next 10 years you'll see people who either didn't have financial education and financial know-how will get assistance to become better at managing their money. And I think that would be very good for everyone, because as you help people manage money, make more money, your economy grows, incomes grow, disposable income also is made available. If there's any agenda or we are planning any agenda, that is where we should be going. So yeah, that's what the next 10 years will look like.
Awesome. It sounds like we're leading to a data-driven fintech, a collaborated data-driven fintech ecosystem where silos will be broken down. Open banking will become the thing of our day. Ghana will experience open banking. The customer's data will become his or her asset. They will leverage their data to make better financial decisions. So I like that. Open banking will become mainstay for us within 10 years from now. Lastly, the one who sees money coming from the trees, Dede, you can see it coming. 10 years from now, how many more highways are we going to be looking at to see money?
Well, so I had partnerships, definitely, absolutely partnerships across the continent, across the globe. But I think that more importantly, fintechs in Africa will drive African states and central banks especially to begin to have a more homogeneous approach to regulation. And so there'll be a more welcoming approach to fintechs within Africa on the continent. I also feel that the other thing that would take us by surprise, the fact that fintechs will form partnerships, like I said, and that would influence a lot of cross-border transactions, especially amongst MSMEs within Africa. It's a thing that's happening. They're happening in silos, but it's about to blow out in a big way. You would have industries from small-scale farming, manufacturing, even services. And these are the actual industries that are actually driving finance in Africa. Also, I think that there's a revolution about to happen in Africa. The quest for financial inclusion will definitely happen automatically. People understand platforms these days. People are gearing towards that. People are becoming more welcoming of it. And so you find that more and more people will become financially included. Africa is likely to become a financial giant within the next 10 years, just because we will be able to put together all these MSMEs, all these cross-border trade industries, and then build them into something really big for the continent. And Africa will start to be almost self-sufficient out of nowhere. We wouldn't understand what happened, but it might have happened out of fintechs. And I think that this African revolution that I call it an African revolution. And I said before, that Africans have decided to take fintechs and have designed African solutions out of fintechs. And I think that we're going great places with this. Definitely, banking will more or less take the shape of wholesale banking, and retail would definitely sit on fintechs. In my opinion, that's what I think. I think it's definitely going to happen. We are also likely to see a lot of national electronic currencies springing up here and there. I'm sure that Ghana will be the first to do that, and I'm sure that other African countries that learn from Ghana will follow in tow. And so it's exciting for me as a fintech player. It's exciting for me to watch and to see as it unfolds. And I think that the next 10 years will be a very, very lucrative place for us fintech players.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Dede. Definitely you see money coming from the trees, from farmers. You said SMEs are going to be doing cross-border business, and with the free trade agreement, for sure, that is inevitable. You also mentioned Africa will be a giant in the financial sector. That is going to be amazing. Already, Ghana is going to be an international financial center. So in 10 years from now, that vision hopefully will become full-blown. I see more hubs happening, financial dedicated hubs, fintech hubs that are innovating, empowered. There's funding, more liquidity in the marketplace. The insurance companies, the capital markets, the pension funds will be a bit more liquid and redirect their attention into the innovative sector of financial services. So without any further ado, I heard a question, will robo-advisors be part of our future of services? The answer is yes. I've already started seeing things around chatbots. Somebody calls theirs the Equia, somebody calls their Majua. You're having all sorts of chatbots coming into the ecosystem to tease out what robo services will look like, or digital assistants will do for us. I see personal finance management platforms coming out to help us manage our savings, for example, to help us pay those bills and payment plans that we set in place. Systems will be built to support these payments. The likes of direct debits will become more intelligent direct debits. Salary payments will no longer be dumb salary payments. There'll be intelligence around that. Sharing bills, a lot more consumer-related applications to create the value that Paul was talking about will happen, and customer loyalty platforms will also come up. Any questions from the audience? I know we've gone past our time. I've really enjoyed the past, the current issues that we're dealing with, and I've seen what the prophets and prophetesses have shared with us, and I think the future for Ghana Financial Services is going to be great. Again, I'm Samuel Amanor, founder CEO for BlueSPACE Africa. We are the plumbing system for the financial ecosystem around Africa. Thank you very much.